Hey, fellow millennials. Have you ever opened your banking app and just cringed at how much you spent last month? Between those daily lattes, Uber Eats orders, and late-night Amazon buys, it's way too easy to watch your paycheck disappear. I know the feeling all too well, and that's why I decided to take on a no-spend month challenge. The goal? To see how much I could save by cutting out all the non-essentials for 30 days. But honestly, this wasn't just about stacking some extra cash. It was about really understanding where my money was going and if I could start making better choices. I've seen other people do it, and the results were wild. They didn't just save money, they ended up happier, less stressed, and more in control of their finances. I had to see if I could get in on that action. So here's how it worked. I still paid for the essentials like rent, groceries, utilities, and getting around. But everything else? Off limits. No eating out, no new clothes, no Netflix splurges, and definitely no late-night online shopping binges. It wasn't going to be easy, but I was ready for the challenge. Let me break down how the month went, week by week, and share how much I saved and what I learned along the way. Before we jump into today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on more tips and challenges to boost your financial game. Let's get started. Week 1. The initial adjustment period. Week 1 was all about breaking the habit. You know those little purchases we don't even think twice about? Grabbing a coffee on the way to work, ordering takeout when we're too tired to cook, or picking up something from Target because, well, it's Target. Breaking those habits was harder than I expected. The first thing I did was get serious about meal planning. Instead of grabbing lunch at work or ordering in, I prepped all my meals at home. Sunday became my meal prep day, and by the end of it, my fridge was stocked with lunches and dinners for the whole week. This not only saved me money, but also time. And let me tell you, having a homemade meal ready to go made it way easier to resist the temptation of delivery apps. Meal planning turned out to be a game changer. I had always known it was a good idea, but actually doing it made me realize how much of a difference it could make. I started experimenting with recipes that were budget-friendly, but still delicious. Think hearty stews, stir-fries, and pasta dishes that could stretch across multiple meals. By cooking in bulk, I cut down on the time spent in the kitchen during the week and avoided the temptation of convenience foods. Plus, I learned to love leftovers. Another benefit of meal planning was how it made grocery shopping more efficient. Before, I'd wander the aisles, grabbing whatever caught my eye, often resulting in impulse buys and wasted food. But with a plan in hand, I knew exactly what I needed. I stuck to my list, avoided unnecessary purchases, and found that my grocery bill was significantly lower. Entertainment was another area I had to rethink. Normally, my weekends might include brunch with friends, hitting up a movie, or some other activity that cost money. But with spending off the table, I had to get creative. I started exploring local parks, binge-watch shows I already had access to, read some books that had been collecting dust on my shelf, and even organized a game night at my place. It turns out, fun doesn't have to come with a price tag. I also took advantage of free events in my community. Whether it was a local farmer's market, a free concert in the park, or a library event, I discovered that there were plenty of activities to enjoy without spending a dime. It was a reminder that socializing and having fun doesn't always have to involve spending money. In fact, some of the best experiences I had during this week were completely free. Exploring local parks became one of my favorite new activities. I found a peaceful walking trail near my apartment that I had never bothered to visit before. It quickly became my go-to spot for unwinding after a long day. Nature has a way of calming the mind, and it was a welcome change from the usual hustle and bustle of city life. I even started bringing a book with me and found that reading in the park was far more enjoyable than I expected. By the end of week 1, I was feeling pretty good about this challenge. I didn't miss those little purchases as much as I thought I would, and I could already see how much I was saving. It was like a little financial detox, and I was excited to see how much I could save by the end of the month. But beyond the financial aspect, I was starting to notice a shift in my mindset. I was becoming more intentional about my choices and realizing that many of the things I thought I needed were more about habit than necessity. Week 2, getting serious about saving. Rolling into week 2, I got more serious about trimming the fat from my budget. The obvious stuff was already cut, so I started digging deeper to find other ways to save. First up was my grocery bill. I've always loved cooking, but I realized I wasn't exactly shopping smart. I often bought more than I needed, and I wasn't paying attention to prices. This week I changed that. Before hitting the store, I made a detailed shopping list based on my meal plan and set a budget. I started buying generic brands, hunting for deals, and sticking strictly to my list. I also focused on using up everything I bought, cutting down on food waste. Just being a bit more mindful at the grocery store made a huge difference in my spending. I began paying closer attention to unit prices, opting for items that offered better value. For instance, I discovered that buying in bulk for certain staples like rice and pasta saved more money in the long run, even if the upfront cost was slightly higher. I also experimented with batch cooking and freezing meals. Not only did this save money, but it also saved time during busy weekdays. By making large quantities of soups, casseroles, and other freezer-friendly dishes, I had ready-to-eat meals that prevented me from turning to expensive takeout options when I was too tired to cook. Next, I took a hard look at my subscriptions. Like many of us, I had a few streaming services I barely used, so I paused or canceled them for the month. It wasn't a ton of savings, but it all added up. Plus, it forced me to find free entertainment, which ended up being more rewarding than I expected. I rediscovered the joy of reading, diving into books I already owned but hadn't touched in years. It felt good to engage in activities that didn't involve staring at a screen. I also took this opportunity to unsubscribe from unnecessary email lists and unfollow social media accounts that promoted consumerism. It was eye-opening to realize how much of my spending was influenced by marketing and ads. By removing these triggers, I found it easier to stick to my no-spend goals. Something else I noticed? How easy it is to spend money out of habit. I'd often catch myself scrolling through Instagram or Facebook and seeing ads for things that caught my eye. Normally, I might click, add to cart, and buy without thinking twice. But during this challenge, I made a conscious effort to resist those impulses. I'd take a step back and ask myself if I really needed it. Spoiler alert, I usually didn't. This challenge also led me to reflect on the psychological triggers that drive impulse buying. I realized that many of my purchases were fueled by boredom, stress, or the desire for instant gratification. By identifying these triggers, I was able to develop healthier coping mechanisms, such as going for a walk, calling a friend, or practicing mindfulness instead of shopping. By the end of week 2, I was starting to feel the impact of my efforts. Not only was I saving more than I expected, but I was also becoming more aware of my spending habits. It was eye-opening to see how much money I'd been blowing on stuff I didn't even need. I was also starting to feel a sense of pride in my ability to stick to my goals. The more I saved, the more motivated I became to continue. Week 3, overcoming challenges and staying motivated. Week 3 was when the honeymoon phase wore off and the real test began. The excitement of the challenge had faded, and I started feeling those old urges to spend creeping back in. It was like my brain was telling me I deserved a reward for doing so well. Social activities were especially tough. One of the hardest moments was when a friend invited me to a birthday dinner at a restaurant. Normally, I'd be all in, but with dining out off limits, I had to think of an alternative. I explained my no-spend month to my friend, who was totally understanding. So we ended up having a potluck dinner at their place instead. It was just as fun, and it didn't cost me a dime. This experience highlighted the importance of communication and creativity when it comes to socializing on a budget. My friends were supportive of my goals, and it turns out they enjoyed the change of pace as well. We even started a tradition of hosting potluck dinners where everyone brought a dish to share. It became less about spending money and more about spending quality time together. I also faced some unexpected expenses. For example, my phone charger broke. Normally, I just order a new one on Amazon, but that wasn't an option. So I reached out to friends to see if anyone had a spare. Sure enough, someone did, and I got a replacement for free. It reminded me that sometimes we can solve problems without spending money. We just have to get a little creative. This situation also made me realize the importance of community and resourcefulness. By asking for help and sharing resources, I was able to meet my needs without spending money. It was a powerful reminder that we don't always have to rely on consumerism to solve our problems. However, week 3 wasn't without its emotional challenges. As the days passed, I started feeling a bit isolated. It's incredible how much of our social lives revolve around spending money. Whether it's grabbing a drink after work, going to the movies, or just doing a little retail therapy with friends, so many of our interactions come with a price tag. I found myself longing for those spontaneous outings, and there were moments where I questioned why I was even doing this challenge. To combat the isolation, I made an effort to reach out to friends and explain what I was going through. I suggested alternatives that didn't involve spending money, like going for a walk, having a picnic, or just hanging out at each other's homes. To my surprise, most people were open to these ideas. It turns out I wasn't the only one feeling the pinch of constant spending, and some of my friends were actually inspired to join me in cutting back. One of the most rewarding experiences during this week was organizing a game night at my place. I dusted off some old board games that I hadn't touched in years and invited a few friends over. We spent hours laughing, strategizing, and just enjoying each other's company. It was a reminder that the best memories are often the simplest ones, and they don't have to cost anything. Despite the emotional ups and downs, by the end of week 3, I was more determined than ever to see this challenge through. The experience was teaching me that financial discipline wasn't just about saving money, it was about taking control of my life. I was learning to appreciate the small things, to find joy in non-material experiences, and to build stronger, more meaningful relationships without relying on spending as a crutch. Before you continue with this challenge, make sure to check out my previous video, How to Save $1,000 in 30 Days. It's packed with practical tips and strategies that will help you kickstart your savings journey. Don't miss it. Week 4, the finish line and final reflections. By week 4, the end was in sight, and I could finally see the full picture of what this no-spend month had accomplished. I was excited but also nervous. Would the results be worth all the sacrifices? Spoiler alert, they absolutely were. First, let's talk numbers. I had been tracking my savings each week, and by the end of the month, the amount I'd saved was staggering. I had slashed my expenses by nearly 40%, which translated to hundreds of dollars back in my pocket. This was money I could now put towards my emergency fund, pay down debt, or even save for something truly meaningful, like a future trip or a big life goal. But beyond the financial gains, the challenge had an even bigger impact on my mindset. I realized that I didn't need half the stuff I thought I did. The challenge had forced me to confront my spending habits head on, and in doing so, I uncovered some powerful truths about myself. For one, I discovered that a lot of my spending was emotional. I would buy things not because I needed them, but because they gave me a quick dopamine hit. Whether it was clothes I rarely wore, gadgets I didn't use, or even food I didn't really want, I was using spending as a way to fill an emotional void. This month showed me that I could find healthier, more sustainable ways to cope with stress and boredom. I also learned to value experiences over things. The moments that stood out most during the challenge weren't about what I bought, but about what I did, like spending quality time with friends and family, not exploring nature, or simply enjoying a good book. These experiences didn't just save me money, they enriched my life in ways that material possessions never could. One unexpected benefit was the sense of control I gained over my finances. Before the challenge, I often felt like my money was slipping through my fingers, with little to show for it. But by cutting out unnecessary spending and being more intentional with my money, I started to feel empowered. I was no longer at the mercy of my impulses or external pressures to spend. Instead, I was making conscious decisions that aligned with my values and long-term goals. As the month came to a close, I had a big decision to make. Would I go back to my old spending habits, or would I carry some of these lessons forward? I decided on a middle ground. While I wasn't going to maintain a strict no-spend lifestyle indefinitely, I did want to keep some of the positive habits I had developed. For example, I committed to continuing meal planning and bulk cooking. Not only did it save me money, but it also made my life easier and healthier. I also decided to be more mindful about impulse purchases. Instead of buying something on a whim, I would wait a few days to see if I really wanted or needed it. Often the urge would pass and I'd realize I was better off saving that money. Another lasting change was my approach to socializing. I found that I actually preferred low-cost or free activities over more expensive outings. They felt more authentic, less stressful, and often more fun. So I made a pact with myself to keep suggesting budget-friendly hangouts, like potlucks, game nights, or outdoor adventures. One of the biggest takeaways from this challenge was the realization that financial freedom doesn't have to come from earning more. It can also come from spending less. By cutting out the excess, I found that I had more than enough to meet my needs, save for the future, and even enjoy a few indulgences along the way. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes less really is more. In the end, the No Spend Month Challenge wasn't just about money. It was about changing my relationship with money. It taught me to be more intentional, more grateful, and more resourceful. It showed me that true happiness doesn't come from what you buy, but from the life you create with what you already have. And that, my friends, is a lesson worth every penny. Conclusion: the lasting impact of the No Spend Challenge. So, would I recommend a No Spend Month Challenge to others? Absolutely. Whether you're trying to save up for something special, pay off debt, or just get a handle on your finances, this challenge is a game changer. It's not just about the money you save, it's about the habits you build, the insights you gain, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing you're in control of your financial future. If you're thinking about giving it a try, here's my advice. Start small. You don't have to cut out everything all at once. Maybe begin with a no-spend week or focus on eliminating just one type of discretionary spending, like dining out or shopping. The key is to find what works for you and build from there. And remember, it's not about perfection. There were moments during my month where I was tempted to give in, and I'm sure there will be moments like that for you too. The important thing is to stay focused on your goals and be kind to yourself along the way. Every little bit counts, and even small changes can lead to big results over time. Looking back, I'm incredibly grateful for this experience. It wasn't always easy, but it was 100% worth it. I learned so much about myself, my spending habits, and what really matters to me. I came out of this challenge not just with a healthier bank account, but with a healthier mindset as well. So that's my No Spend Month story. I hope it inspires you to take on your own financial challenges and see just how much you can achieve. Remember, financial freedom isn't just about what you earn, it's about how you choose to live. Thanks for watching, and if you're up for the challenge, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences, tips, and tricks. Let's keep the conversation going and support each other on the path to financial empowerment. See you in the next video.